What's up, guys? Welcome to Zach. I'm your host, Daily Dose of Reddit, and today's parent is r/entitled subreddit. This story's called, "My Mom Thinks My Sister is Entitled to My Grandparents' Will." So this is a generally long story, dating back about 8 or 9 years ago from the beginning until now. I'll throw in a bit of context here to help you understand the situation a little bit better. My grandparents on my father's side of the family are really well off in wealth. They practically own all of the lands within a small city environment that was inherited from my grandfather's father before him and split between himself and his 2 siblings. They do business in renting out the land to companies, farmers, and homeowners, from my understanding. This has brought my grandfather's life worth up to roughly about $2.8 billion within his lifespan before he passed away. My grandparents encourage a lifestyle where we need to make our own way within the world, but they are willing to help out with certain expenses such as school funds, rent, homeownership, and sometimes even smaller things like vet bills, shopping, etc. Now we can get on to the story. So about roughly 9 years ago, my sister had graduated from high school and had earned a 2-year scholarship to her dream college. But she couldn't afford much more than that and wouldn't be able to buy everything she needed for those 2 years. Our grandparents had graciously decided to help her out with the funding. They paid for her dorm room, her transportation fees, her books, her food tickets, and everything else she would need for the 4 years or so that she attended, even granting her extra money for anything else she might want to do on the sideline or anything she might need for school. This included monthly paychecks for gas and extra food. So my mom gave her our old car, my grandparents paid for everything else she'd need, and she was off for her college experience. Throughout her 4 or so years of college, my sister changed her major 3 times, failed to graduate because of constantly changing her classes, and spent a good majority of her money on partying and hauling her friends around, taking everyone out to expensive restaurants and eating out often. There was a time during her years attending college where my grandparents had overpaid. They forgot they had paid for the year's dorms and classes already and sent in a double payment, where the school decided to refund their money, but sent it to my sister instead of back to them. She never bothered to ask about where it came from or who it belonged to. She just decided to waste the extra $12,000 that she got back on partying and eating out more often than she had before. Because more money, right? This greatly upset our grandparents because she had stolen their money without even bothering to ask them about it to begin with, as she was supposed to return it to them. This was the first mistake she had made with them. By the end of her last year, she was supposed to graduate. Still had a ceremony, but didn't graduate any specific class or job choice. Everyone decided to join together to help her celebrate her time and effort in school. We're talking around maybe 20 people who flew in from all across the country to join her. This included great aunts, great uncles, cousins, our aunt, our dad and stepmom, stepmom's grand crotch goblins, and finally, our grandparents themselves. It's likely, although not specifically known of, that our grandparents had paid for everyone else's travel expenses, including plane tickets, hotel rooms, and more. Our grandpa was in very poor health at that time already. He never traveled because it was hard on him. Strapped to an oxygen tank and wheelchair-bound at the time, for them, it had been roughly a 9-hour drive to her college, which was located high up in the mountains, which only made it harder for our granddad to be there. So everyone had gathered from far and wide to help celebrate her achievements and congratulate her personally. But my sister was in a pissy mood from the very beginning and conveniently decided to have a mental breakdown, which was basically her just throwing a tantrum, and she basically, in short words, decided to just say screw it. She blew everyone else off and avoided them like the plague. She talked to our dad and our stepmom, and that was it. She refused to talk to our grandparents and ignored everyone else who had shown up before leaving the campus. I spent time with our grandparents and our other relatives in her stead. because holy hell, that was rude. Even I hate her for that. And then I left with our mom to help her finish packing up her dorm room so she could move back down to the city. Which, by the way, she didn't help us. She just sat there, huffing and being pissy the entire time we hauled everything out to her car. So we finished and got a phone call from our grandma, Nani, who said that we all needed to meet up with them in XX place because they had all gathered together at the hotel they were staying at to throw her a very expensive party to celebrate with her. But my sister decided to ignore them and went to visit Dad instead at his hotel shortly before making a straight drive back down into the city. This was her second mistake, which greatly pissed off our grandparents and relatives. She didn't give a damn. So a few years passed. My sister never really cared nor tried to keep contact with our grandparents, save for the one time she approached them to show off her boyfriend, and Nani had torn into her about how disrespectful and rude she had been, to which my mother defended my sister and lied about the money she stole and said it had been her own. And eventually, in October of 2017, our grandfather started ailing beyond a point of returning. His body was starting to fail, and he was getting ready to pass on. We had to force my sister to join us to visit him one last time before he passed. He had passed away on the 17th. He, deliberately we believe, cut his oxygen supply off and let himself go after all their family and friends had gotten to say goodbye for the last time. So now it was just Nani, and I swear, every time I visited her, which was often after he first had passed, she was going off about my sister stealing from them and being disrespectful and how Mom was trying to cover for her, and I knew. I mean, it wasn't anything new to me. My mom would always defend my sister's every action, good or bad. But I did eventually try to gently tell her to let it go. That it wasn't worth clinging on to because it would only stress her out and make her unhappy and miserable if she did. She didn't want to let it go, and I doubt it was over the money in general. I believe it was more because of her disrespectful attitude and coldness toward them. Granddaddy had a will written out that granted all of us, even my sister at first, roughly $150,000 to $280,000 in a trust fund that we would continue to grow over the years, but wouldn't be accessible to us until after Nani died. And, well, I guess 3 years later, she still hasn't been able to let that incident go, because we just got a letter in the mail from the lawyer about a week ago saying that Nani removed my sister from the will. I don't blame her for it. My sister is a real piece of work. She's money hungry, spoiled, just bad in general. She's our mom's little angel, so she gets away with everything and never thinks or cares about anything she does. My mom got so angry about that letter, though, that she actually threatened to sue my grandma for removing my sister off of the will. She went as far as to call my grandmother to complain about it, but chickened out of going off on her because Nani is just one of those people you don't want to piss off. She instead demanded that I share my portion of the will with my sister, and I told her no. She's an idiot, my sister deserved this, and I'll never see it as anything otherwise. She only ever visited for money. She never bothered to speak to them otherwise either. Whether they accepted her warmly or not didn't matter. She was extremely rude and never felt any remorse for her actions towards them or anyone else in the family. I don't blame her for removing my sister. As of now, it's her money and her right to remove my sister if she feels necessary to do so. My mom is an idiot for wanting to take her into court over it. My mom has never seen a problem with how disrespectful and rude my sister had been and continues to be. And that's exactly why she was removed. My grandma says Granddaddy did it before he passed. Whether that's true or not, I doubt it honestly, but in any case, I don't blame her. My sister is like our parents, greedy, money-hungry, and selfish people. Edit. I'll be turning off notifications and stop responding to responses because it's absolutely wrecking my phone's battery. Ha! I just wanted to clear a few things up here first, as I've seen them often in responses. I'm not going to try to voice that. My mom is not at all considered a part of the family. She has no part in the will, so she can't give my sister crap. No, I don't live a lavish lifestyle just because my grandparents are wealthy. They still believe in hard work, and my grandma doesn't throw money around just for anything. She'll help pay for schooling, sometimes small things like rent if we get an apartment, but aside from this, we have to work for everything we own. This money is in a trust fund that nobody can access until she dies, and even then, it's linked, meaning it affects all of our accounts if someone withdraws, to encourage us to continue working and making our own way in life. We can withdraw money, but we have to pay it back, like a loan, and it diminishes the amount that we'll continue to pay back into our account as the years go on. This was done purposely because they didn't want us to be freeloaders who never worked a day in our lives. It was an encouragement to live for ourselves and make our own way in the world. Yes, I will talk to my grandma about the $1 thing. I'm sure she knows what she's doing already. She's a smart woman. Yeah, OP's sister really needs to get away from her family and just try to live on her own and spend a lot of time on introspection, because honestly, in her case, you can't honestly blame her too much, because your first instinct is to call out that sort of behavior, but honestly, she probably literally does not know better. I know this because I've acted similarly without even realizing it, because if you're never called out on this stuff, who's gonna tell you that it's wrong? It's reasons like this why you really gotta sit down and analyze how you treat people and just your behavior in general, because you'll find out a lot about yourself, and it allows you to become the sort of person you want to be. Getting mad at someone like that really isn't helping anything, because it's just gonna further enforce it, because their first instinct is to defend themselves. It's a really bad cycle, you get it. This one's called, "A mother made my school bus driver cry and murdered her spirit over special presents." My mom just reminded me of this. I don't remember every detail because I was like 5 or 6 when this went down, but I do remember how bummed kids were after. Okay, so when I was like 5 or 6, 1997, I rode the bus to and from school. Our bus driver was an older lady named Marge. I only remember her name because of Pee-wee's Big Adventure. And she was a super nice lady. She didn't have kids, so I think she thought of kids on her route as her makeshift grandkids. She got to know most of the kids on that road routinely, and would give gifts on birthdays and special presents to some kids, not all, on Christmas or Hanukkah. Now, we all knew about the special presents. The older kids had told the younger kids, and it seemed like a general rule that some kids got small wrapped gifts, like the size of an iPhone box, nothing big, and the rest of us got candy canes. I don't remember exactly what year this event happened. I think it was maybe in the 1st grade, because I was very aware of the special gifts, and I know I had gotten a Barbie doll from her on my birthday, which landed just before school let out for summer break. Anyway, this happened just before Christmas break. Marge had already given special presents to the kids she always gave them to. It was after school. We were being dropped off at the bus stop. It was raining really hard, and I was already in a grumpy mood because the wind blew my umbrella inside out. Marge pulled up at the sidewalk, reminded us to put on our jackets and hoods, which causes her to take a few seconds to open the door. That's when this crazy, entitled mother starts rapping her knuckles on the door, like really hard. Marge pulled that lever that opens the door, and even before it could open all the way, this entitled mother shoves the door open and stomps in and, according to my mom, shouts, "Why do you give presents to 4 kids and not my kids?" I honestly don't remember what this woman had said. I remember her yelling, and all of us are silent and watching. My mom hears Marge say, "Excuse me?" This entitled mother begins on a tirade of calling Marge a predator and accusing her of nepotism, which made her look extremely uncomfortable. As my mom said, she looked like she was shocked in an odd way. The entitled mother then says, "Are you touching these kids? Is that it? You're a monster! She's a goddamn monster!" That's when someone's father gets in and yanks that crazy woman off. I remember seeing her vanish like a magic trick, and then looking at Marge, who was crying. My sweet old bus driver was openly weeping and sobbing. It was sad and uncomfortable because at my age, I didn't know what to do, and I barely talked, so I didn't know what to say or if I should say anything to Marge. Marge allowed us to get off. I kept my head down as I passed her, feeling this achy feeling in my chest. Outside, the entitled mother was yelling that it wasn't fair that only 4 families' riders that Marge knew, almost personally, got gifts for Christmas, and her 2 kids only got a stupid freaking candy cane. I do remember that part. I remember thinking, lady, we all got candy canes, so what? My mom walked me home, and just as we turned the corner, a cop car came up the street. His lights weren't on, he just kinda crept by, if that makes sense. My mom had shaken her head and said, "Can you believe that crazy woman? Is she sick in the head?" The next week, last week of school, we had a sub-driver. We had him until February. March returned, and she seemed to have lost her chipperness. Like she didn't come off as open and sweet like before. She stopped giving gifts altogether, and she didn't get involved or ask us about our home lives or our families anymore either. She was my bus driver until I moved, 3 years later. I wonder if she's still alive. That entitled mom didn't show up after that one time. I don't think I ever met her kids or knew who they were even. But yeah, that crazy woman kinda murdered my bus driver's spirit. Sorry it was so long. Edit. Okay, so me and my mom figured out this happened when I was 6, 1998, and in 1st grade. This edit may seem irrelevant, but I was really trying to remember how old I was and what was going on in my life. Last time I saw Marge was in 2001. I hope she's still alive somewhere out there and is still as nice as I remember her being. Bus drivers have the potential to be some really cool people. I remember back when I lived in Colorado, I had a bus driver. Her name was Miss Nancy. She was so sweet. Like, anytime I'd see her anywhere, I'd always run up to her and give her a hug because she was like my school grandma, kinda. She was so sweet, so nice. And just so you know, the school is really small, so the buses dropped off each kid individually at their houses. So every year, just before Christmas, she would ask us to, pose for a picture outside the bus so she could take a picture from her seat. And then on the last day until break, she gives us all custom handmade Christmas ornaments with our pictures on them. And it's always so nice, and she was so sweet. So for that Karen to just come up out of nowhere and freaking just kill her spirit like they said, that's just horrible, man. How many kids lost a much needed friend there? Alright, last up is called Entitled Mother During a Cyclone. So today, there was a cyclone in the Arabian Sea. This was the first time we got a cyclone in years, so people weren't sure how to deal with it. So our society decided to close the electricity for a few hours due to the cyclone. The whole society was given 2 days prior notice. On the day of the cyclone, I went to the society office to get a parcel. There, I saw our entitled mother talking, more like shouting, to the guards. "Why did you close electricity?" "Because a cyclone is coming and a power surge can happen." "Is that my fault? My son needs electricity so he can do his homework." "Sorry, but this is out of my hands. You can talk to the director, though." "Fine. Hope he won't be as useless as you." She then talks on the phone for 15 minutes with a lot of cussing and all after the call. "He told me I can have electricity." "I need to confirm." The director tells guard to only turn on her electricity. Finally, someone who has sense. She leaves the office with a smug look on her face. She goes up to her home and the guard turns on her house's electricity. After the cyclone ended, I found that there was a huge power surge, and the surge ended up frying all her home's plugged-in appliances, and her son's laptop got fried, making him lose all the work. Karma's a female dog, I guess. Ooh, this belongs in malicious compliance. That is some good stuff. So I don't have the most knowledge, or any knowledge, regarding power grids and all that jazz. So by having everyone's electricity turned off and hers on, Did that make the power surge so much worse than it would have been? Because I know that electricity is a lot like water in a pipe, sort of. So by closing off all these openings, you're increasing water pressure to whatever's left open. Is that how it works with electricity? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.